Greetings, everyone. Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest episode of Monday Musings, where I come on and talk about all the random things that I'm doing or working on shows, TV series, books that I'm reading, so on and so forth. And as we move deeper into 2021, I think I'm going to start to have some people join me on these episodes for the days that I pre record them. I often do these very early on a Monday morning when I get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning or something, or I'll sometimes pre-record them. So for any time that I might have guests on, they will be pre-recorded. But I got the idea the other day. I was looking through, if you remember, one of our long-term community members who's been around for a long time, Hemvar, has been here since before this uh, before my channel existed, before my Discord existed, yeah, before any of the things that I'm doing here existed, because he and his brother bought T-shirts from the original T-shirt campaigns we did for Saga Leucemia, which had to have been the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, somewhere in there. Um, and he's got this website, which I'm gonna go check his blog real quick. His Discord. It's ForgottenRealmsReading.com. And the blog has been around for a couple of years, and he's basically going through the entire Forgotten Realms library and reading all of the books. And he's doing blog posts about those and reviews. And he's got this spreadsheet. And if you go look at the spreadsheet, he actually started reading all the way back in 2017 and working his way through the series. So I looked at that and went, hey, I sent him a direct message the other day. I said, "Would you like to come on and just talk about that project?" And he's a little bit busy right now, but he said over the next couple of months, at some point, once things slow down for him in real life, he's happy to come on and talk about that. So at some point here in the next couple of months, we'll probably see him on the show to talk about his Forgotten Realms reading project, which got me thinking about having other people come on the show and talk about random stuff. Because this is not necessarily a show that's about gaming. A lot of the other stuff I do is about gaming. So Mondays and MMORPGs is all about MMORPGs. Here on my YouTube channel, I do a lot of, I play Lotro. I did the Lotro Cooking in Real Life show. I do, like I just reviewed Solasta. I've reviewed other games in the past. I will probably review games coming up in the future. I know I'm going to be playing Assassin's Creed. Excuse me, not Assassin's Creed. That's the one I just finished was Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'll be playing Mass Effect: The Legendary Edition coming up in May. I'm playing Greedfall right now. Anyway, so I talk about games here on this channel, but that's not the only thing I do. So I'd like to have these Monday episodes be about things where I have other people who maybe want to jump on and talk about something, whether it's a show or a book or something of that nature. So I'll probably just end up putting those out like an open call on Discord to people who might want to come on and join me to talk about random things for an episode here or there. So stay tuned for that because it might not just be me on Monday Musings as we get deeper into 2021. So before we get deeper in, I'd like to say if you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get updates for future content or live streams. And of course, don't forget to join our Discord because as we get further and further into this year, we're going to be doing more and more stuff through Discord. Also, check out TikTok. I do daily things on TikTok, a lot of which is related to Project Ramen, but not all of it is. Uh, there's sometimes I do funny stuff. Sometimes I do stuff with Chris. We sometimes do little things between the two of us. I wouldn't call them comedy skits, but we do fun little quirky videos between the two of us. What else you got to do during quarantine? We're a couple who have no kids, and we live in a city where we're locked down for the most part, so you have to find a way to be creative with your time. In any case, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about this morning was, possibly having other people come on the show and talk about various topics. Uh, excuse me, it's about time for my nap. I say that because I'm actually pre-recording this episode. It is 12:30 on Sunday the 25th, and I woke up early. We went out for a walk. Um, it's my Sunday. I take naps every day. It's about my nap time. 1 o'clock is about usually when I go lay down for a nap. In any case, we started watching Shadow and Bone on Netflix. We binged watched 4 episodes yesterday. So we did 2 episodes Friday, 4 episodes yesterday, and we're gonna wrap up the last 2 episodes. Maybe today. It depends on if Chris finishes her drawing. Do you think you're gonna want to watch the last 2 episodes of Shadow and Bone today? You think today or tomorrow? Depends on your drawing. Anyway, I'm just saying that because she's sitting here drawing right now at the desk next to me, so I figured I would ask. But at some point, we're going to wrap up the show. We got 2 episodes left. But Shadow and Bone has proved to be a really cool show, and I have to say, I've never read the books. I know it was based on a book series, and I have since gone out and researched that book series. Um, Sorry about the background noise there, folks. I've got some Facebook stuff going off. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be wrapping up Shadow and Bone. It's proved to be a really cool show. Um, it started really fast. Like the first episode, we were both sitting there going, "Man, like there's so many characters that they're introducing you to all within the first episode." It just felt kind of overwhelming. But by the time you get to the third episode, it's pretty straightforward where everything is going. So I'd say if you can get past that initial what's going on. I've got these characters and 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 they're on different sides of the border in different parts of the world, and you're getting slammed by all of this stuff. But definitely by the third episode, you definitely you know all of the major players and you understand what's going on. And you can kind of get into the flow of things. So apart from a very, very abrupt kind of just throw you into the deep end introduction episode, that show has proven to be incredibly entertaining, and I would highly recommend everybody, if you have not already done so, to take a dive and watch this show if you like good fantasy shows. The other thing, if you haven't done so, I know I mentioned this on my Discord. Um, Love, Death, and Robots, the second season, is coming in May, I believe, to Netflix. If you have not watched the first season, you need to do so. If you like science fiction, fantasy, short stories, and anthologies, um, it's well worth your time. The thing I really like about the show is that each episode is a completely different art studio. It's a completely different studio doing the art and directing the episodes, so you get a completely different feel for each one of these episodes. So even though they might only be 15 minutes long, 30 minutes long or something, you're still getting a ton of just variety, and it really feels unique because each story is different, not only in the type of story that it is, but also in the tone and the style of animation. I'm not usually a fan of anime shows, but this is not necessarily anime. It's definitely adult oriented. Do not let your kids watch this show. It is not a show for children. It's definitely an adult oriented, dark. There's some cyberpunk, there's some sci-fi, there's some fantasy, there's a little bit of everything, a little bit of spec fic. It's just a highly imaginative show. Second season's coming out very soon on Netflix. I would highly recommend that you go take a look at all of that stuff if you have not already done so. Okay, what else is new? Excuse me. All right, Mondays and MMORPGs. So moving forward, I've still got a couple more episodes that are coming out that have Lexer. He unfortunately had to take a step back for real life, and as a result, once we get past his episodes, we've already started to schedule some additional episodes with some other co-hosts. I know, for example, this Monday evening, the 26th, I'll be recording an episode that has my brother on. So Scribbles and I are still the mainstays, but my brother's going to be joining us for this upcoming episode, which will be in a few weeks. It'll be out in a few weeks, and then we've got some additional co-hosts who are joining us for some future episodes. So we're going to be moving through that as normal. We've got 16 episodes planned, but we've had some people pitch some additional ideas as well. So we might end up expanding that to 18 or 20 episodes for this season, depending on how people feel and what everybody's schedules look like. For the meantime, we're moving forward with that. And then I joined last week, if you didn't catch the episode, I linked it on Twitter, Discord, all social media. I joined the Looking for More podcast because Lexer was also a co-host there, and because he had to step back for life, they had an opening. So I joined them last week. So I joined Simmerk, who's the host, and then Nathan Napalm, who's the co-host, and I will be joining them for the foreseeable future because they do those live on Twitch Thursday afternoons at 5 p.m. Central, and I'm always done with my day job by 4:30, and I like to talk about games, so I'm going to be joining them, you know, on that show as a I don't want to say permanent, but who knows what that could turn into. But I was telling Simmerg and Nathan, I was like, I've got zero plans for travel until at least November, and that just depends on when vaccinations open up here in Mexico because they're behind schedule now, and also we don't know what travel is going to look like even by November of this year. So at the very least, I don't have any plans to go anywhere until the holiday season. So I was like, you've got me for the next 6 months. I'm happy to come on the show every week and talk about things for from a developer's perspective as well as from a gamer's perspective. And I had a lot of fun last Thursday. Um, Looking forward to next Thursday, and I believe the next episode is going to be talking about crowdfunding, which we actually have. That is also going to be an upcoming episode of the Mondays and Demo RPGs podcast at some point as well. Um, so it's going to be fun to talk about it with different people on two different shows, get people's perspective on crowdfunding, and then to be able to give people some insight into it from my side of the fence, since I have done, been behind the scenes as the director for a company that successfully did crowdfunding and investments. Um, so it'll be interesting to bring that perspective to the table so that people can have a little bit of an other side of the fence part of the discussion as opposed to only looking at it from the player's side. Talk about some numbers, talk about some of the pros and cons of crowdfunding and pre-orders and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to that. I've always liked the Looking for More show. It's I think one of the most interesting things to me is because there's multiple people in there talking about different perspectives. It's just a different take on things than to what I've traditionally done with the Mondays and MMORPG show. So it's nice to be able to go on a different show, talk about things from a different perspective, talk about different topics, and it's great fun. So I'm glad I'm able to be a part of that and join those guys for the next 6 months or so at the very least, barring unexpected life circumstances. But yeah, if you haven't checked that out yet, you should definitely do that. Links are here excuse me, not here, but links are below. If you go over to Discord, you'll find a link to that. You can also find them at Twitter. I believe it's at the Looking for More podcast. Just Google it, you'll find it. Um, so yeah, those are two of the things I'm working on right now. What else? Book wise, I'm still just slowly working my way through the Chronicles of Dragonlance. I don't have any other material on my desk right now for reading. That's my primary source right now because of the fact that I'm still just heavily invested in making sure that I get the third person omnipresent, you know, done right for Project Drummond. So I'll be working through that, and I thought about it, and I was like, I was kind of inspired by Himvar doing this whole Forgotten Realms reading in all of those books in their entirety, and it made me kind of wonder, I wonder if I want to read all of Dragonlance in its entirety because there's like 200 books in that series, if I'm not mistaken, like around 200. Um, I remember in the mid to late 90s when I was heavy into Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms and everything, I probably read 50 or so of those books. Along with, I read 50 or so of the Dragonlance, 50 or so of the Forgotten Realms. I was also reading, I was reading like the Xanth novels at the time, everything I could get my hands on. I was reading all sorts of series. So, um, I don't know if I want to dive that deep into Dragonlance, but I might because it's good resource material for what we're doing with Project Dramming, even though ours is a different take on things because we're dealing with a little bit of a blend of fantasy with science fiction. So we've got technology and um, fantasy, technology and magic. Which looking at that from a perspective of we've been working on that project for 2 months now. When we went into that project, I think we all thought it was just going to be only fantasy based. But then once we decided that humans came north as a result of, screwing things up with technology. I liked the idea that they had remnants of technology from before, but and even though they didn't necessarily have access to the laboratories and um, all the resources that they did before in terms of the military complexes that helped forward the technological advancements with quantum technology, they still have a lot of the same tools at their disposal. And as I've gotten deeper into working on the backstory for humans, the humans versus the Fae, or the church versus magic, I've kind of liked the idea more and more, and I've started to evolve more on that with the technology starting to actually evolve a little bit now that they've had a chance to resettle. It's been 500 years or so. They've gotten past the trauma of most of humanity being wiped out. They're starting to expand again. They're in a new part of the world, and they are starting to experiment with technology again, which is leading them to new things and new tools. Which I don't know. I just kind of like, even without mirroring it directly. I can even say you could see elements of this even in Lord of the Rings, for example, because Saruman was very much the the adopter of technology. The rest of the realms, elves and dwarves and so on and so forth, kind of, dealing with magic and still doing things very much in a medieval format. But Isengard was all about, engineering. Saruman was heavy into engineering and figuring out new ways to do things with science as opposed to only relying upon magic and stuff. So I like that concept. And the more I've gotten into the history of Project Drammond, I think we're going to continue to push that. And I don't know that we necessarily, because watching Shadow and Bone the other day, um, they've got a little bit of everything going on. You've got pistols and cannons and swords and magic, and it's a very interesting take on things. And kind of been absorbing lots of different things from different places, going, I don't know that I necessarily want guns at the moment, but I do like, in terms of flintlock pistols and stuff. But I do like having the idea of having weapons at the disposal of the church that are range based, if that makes sense. So they're not, I'm not talking bows and arrows here, but I'm talking, if an elf can cast magic missile or a fireball or something, if a wizard could do that, then what's the equivalent from the technological side? So okay, they've got things that they can use which can launch attacks. So, excuse me. I think that's kind of interesting. Something else that I really loved in one of the episodes, we watched the other night, and not to spoil anything, but there's an episode where these mages are being attacked in the woods, and everything is sight based, so they have to be able to see the target to use their magic on them. And so the way that the enemy gets around that is they have sharpshooters, and so the sharpshooters are trained, shoot them in the head, like take those wizards out because if they see you, they can wreak havoc. And I was just, I was coming up with battle scenarios in my head, thinking about that kind of environment. Um, I think it's cool to have that kind of played out in shows. It's one of the reasons I really love the advancement of technology to the point where we're kind of in the golden age of television right now. Because whether it's Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, I don't know, Peacock, I don't know how, all the streaming services, but there's so much good television on right now, and you can find lots of different inspiration from lots of different sources, not just from books these days. And comics are a good way. Like, also, I mean, look at Duncan Jones, who's the director of like Moon, Mute, the Warcraft movies. What's the other one? Source Code, which is a really cool science fiction film. Um, if you haven't watched, I think Moon was his very first film. It's one of the coolest independent like sci-fi films I've seen in a long time. I've seen it 3 times now. Moon is great. Um, And Mute, which I've watched twice now, Mute is set in the same universe, but he did that one for Netflix. So he did Moon, Mute, and then I guess he did this. They did a Kickstarter version of this cyberpunk story where it was set in the same universe, but it's a graphic novel. Now I don't own it, but it's been getting delivered over the last few weeks to all of the Kickstarter backers, and I follow Duncan Jones on Twitter, so I'm seeing lots of comments and stuff going. And this looks like an amazing hardback graphic novel. The Kickstarter rewards looked amazing, but I think what's really cool is if you look at the fact that he did three different stories in that same universe. One was a feature film, one was a Netflix film, one was a comic book. So finding different mediums to tell those stories and still work within that same um, universe. Um, I like all sorts of fantastical content. I don't really care what the medium is, which is why as I've gotten older, like I said, I didn't used to be such a fan of anime or animation. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten over that and been like, there's great stories to be told in animation as well. And I wished I would have, you know, paid attention more to animation when I was growing up. And when I say animation, I mean more than just like the Disney, because I've seen all the Disney films and like all the stuff that Spielberg did. They had their own animation studio, DreamWorks Animations, I think it was called. And then Fox had their own studios. So I watched a lot of animation growing up in the 90s, but it was always like those family-friendly adventures, and some of those was really good films. Atlantis is a good one that I can always remember off the top of my head. And then there's Titan AD. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Where they go off and find this moon. I'm looking it up to make sure. Titan AE, not Titan AD. Titan AE, which was by Don Bluth and Gary Goldman. Yeah, it was a Fox Animation Studios. Now I'm looking at all the stuff they've produced over the years. Anastasia, I remember that. It was okay. Prince of Egypt, that was okay. Looks like the last one they did was Titan AE. But anime in particular, like Asian style anime, I've never been too into that. And I remember some friends trying to get me into it in the late 90s, watching some of like I guess what would be considered now like classics like Vampire Hunter D, um, Akira, I think maybe is what it was called, Ghost in the Shell. And those were very interesting films. Um, but I've never been attracted to like the traditional anime. I can't tell you why. Some of it I just don't like some of the way those are written, but this is a personal thing. But anyway, Netflix got me back into anime. Castlevania, amazing anime show. If you've not watched Castlevania on Netflix, you need to. It's so cool. Um, the story is really good. The voiceovers are good. A lot of people you will recognize if you're into movies like I am, doing voice acting on that show. Um, yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff come out of Netflix. I don't watch all the animation stuff that they do, but I am starting to get more into it, especially as they produce shows like Love, Death, and Robots. So, all right, we're about 23 minutes in. I think I'm gonna do a shorter episode today. So let's talk a little bit about the Project Drammon stuff because I always end on the Project Drammon note. Um, let's see. I just did the update on April 23rd. Make sure that I do that correctly. We did a big public update for everybody. So if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure to go over to Patreon. Links are below. And that's a big public update. So we did an update that's not for subscribers, it was actually for the general public. And we talked about all the things we've been doing over the last 2 months, almost 2 months, because by that point, April 23rd was not quite 2 months because we started off on March 1st. But let me go back and open up that post real quick because one of the things I wanted to talk about is just documentation is such a big thing. And no, that was the brainstorming. Where did it go? Okay, here it is. So, in the 2 months since we have started Project Drummond, we have done over 30, it looks like, we've done over 30 Patreon posts, over 40 YouTube videos, and around 100, I would say around 100 now, TikTok videos, uh, just showcasing the work that's been done over the last 2 months. And, not to toot my own horn, but we've got a lot done in 2 months. As of today, I am in the middle of reworking. I've written, so in terms of the core rulebook, I've done the entire introduction, the entire history, the entire race sections, and the character creation sections. So I've got a good chunk of that core rulebook done. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking like the last week of April basically, and I'm just editing all that, and I'm rearranging parts, and I'm rewriting sections of it and fleshing other sections out, cutting some things out and refining them down. But I'm really just ironing and ironing all that stuff out and getting a little bit of polish edited into that before I go into the next steps, which is the next section is going in, and then I've got to start adding all the racial traits to the race sections. So we've got our unique races, and I've got to edit their histories out now because we've actually got names of like the forests where they live, the cities where they've lived. We've got some more history on like the Church of the Elder Ways. I need to finalize the backstory for the Elven Mages Circle. So there's still, quite a bit of history that has to be done. I still have to write the factions um, and their histories and their structure so that we know, who are the paladins, who are the inquisitors, so on and so forth. But that's coming along nicely. I'm like 16,000 words in right now and like 27 pages, something like that. Chris has done, um, I can't even tell you now how many pieces of art. So we've got, since she got the tablet, I think she's done 5 or 6 pieces throughout the month of April as she's been learning tutorials. And then once we hit May, she's started a new objective of doing like 3 pieces a week. So we're going to try to have a good chunk of art, at least, even if it's just placeholder stuff. We'll have a bunch of art ready for the core rulebook, which again, we're trying to have the first version of that ready to go by July 1st so that we can start doing the actual play tests on Roll20. We're going to be doing this once a week. I'm going to have a max of 8 people joining, and we're going to be play testing the core rulebook live once a week. I'll be streaming that on YouTube, here on YouTube, but we're going to be using Roll20 to do that. So I'm going to have that all ready by the first, and then I've got to start working on the campaign module in May, and then I got to get some maps done as well. So lots being worked on, and then she's been doing artwork, and then the big thing is like, if you haven't been checking it out, my brother is just hitting it out of the ballpark with progress on the um, adventure game. Took him a little bit to get up to speed with blueprints and learn how to use that system, but he's rocking and rolling. He's done a couple of his own blueprints now, above and beyond what the pack we're using gives him. And if you caught the most recent update from Sunday on Twitter and Facebook and etc., he's got all this functionality in there in terms of picking up items, putting in inventory, talking to an NPC, them taking the item from you, and then he's already got, which isn't in this week's update, it'll be next week's update, but they can then spawn the item that you need to continue for the next quest. We've got doors with locks working so that you need to have a key in order to open up the locked door. So we got a lot of the functionality going already for the point and click stuff. And then sometime in May, I'm going to be starting to work on dialogue. And then he's hoping by mid-May, he'll be to the point where we can start actually replacing some of the gray box material with actual assets and environmental art, and so that we can start getting that all fleshed out so that we can add some polish to it and have everything ready for the demo that we want to have ready for July 1st, assuming we still hit that deadline. Because again, health, life, all that other stuff can always get in the way. But we are rocking and rolling on that front. Lots of progress being done. But I was just one of the things that I've always loved about documenting the process is it's very easy to go back and look at things and say, we did this, and this. Course corrected here. Course corrected here. didn't like what we saw from here, so we revised to this. Um, Documenting in the way that we do it is very beneficial. This same way I did Saga of Lucimia for 6.5 years. Starting in February of 2014 all the way up to end of 2020. Um, did over 550 newsletters, over 550 YouTube videos. Um, Documenting is an extremely powerful tool, and it's just a great way to keep track of progress. And it's also a great, um, it is a great marketing tool in the sense that you can easily just point people to things and say, you don't have to believe me when I tell you something. Don't. Look at the documentation. The- That's all you need. Just look at it. If that's not enough for you, then I'm not going to be able to convince you with anything. So I just like to have that out there for people to look at and be like, you don't have to believe me when I say that we're doing this. You can go see the documentation and see that we're doing it. So it's not about, a lot of times with Kickstarter, as an example, you'll see somebody say something and then you don't hear from them for a year. And it's like, well, what's being worked on? Like, what are you actually doing? Whereas documenting in this way has always been, it's worked very well for me in the past, and I'm just repeating the same process all over again. So it's been fun, and it's also a great way for me to look back and say, this is the ideas that we had in the beginning that we can kind of shelf because they didn't quite work, or we can spin those off and do it with something else. But yeah, when I wrote that post on the 23rd, it was very much, holy crap, have we really done that many? We've done that many Patreon posts, that many YouTube videos, and we've already done like, almost 100 TikTok videos as well. Um, that's been pretty cool. So that's a good cutoff point for me and a good reminder to everybody that you should definitely check out the links below and join the Discord, join over on TikTok, join Twitter, join Facebook, join the Patreon, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so. Hit the bell icon to get updates for all the things we do on this channel, and stick around because we got a lot more coming in the pipeline. Looking forward. We got new recordings of Mondays in MMORPG this week, as well as the next episode of Looking for More podcast. Should be fun. Thanks to everybody for your support, for your likes, follows, comments, questions, so on and so forth. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see everybody in the next episode next week. Until then, cheers.